What's up, Chicago? This is Cypher News, and I'm your host, Melissa Dupre. Actor, comic, producer, playwright, but today I'm coming in as a lover and a fan of film and all things narrative that we are using to elevate Black and Brown stories, and particularly one with this amazing individual that we have today as our guest. We have Emmai and Alaquiva. Is that how you say your last name? Alaquiva? Alaquiva. Emmai
Alaquiva.
Alaquiva. It's such an
Yes,
honor. It's such an honor to have you in the space and in the room. I know that you have been to this Accelerator Fest and the Cypher before, so we have
yes.
some community and some connection, but you're doing incredible things. I want to introduce you to our people who may not be aware of all of your talents. Emmai is an incredible multidisciplinarian, but he is an Emmy award-winning film director, photographer for Rock Nation, Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, CBS Sports Network, Brooklyn Public Library, Amazon, BMW, The Roots, and more. And today he's sitting with us specifically around his latest project, a documentary film about Black and Brown infant mortality called The Ebony Canal, which is featured at the Sundance Film Festival. And it is voiced by the incredible, the incomparable, the legendary, the iconic Viola Davis. And so we're here to talk about that film today, and also to talk about a little bit of your background and your career. You have such
Sure.
a robust history, and it comes from being a multidisciplinarian. It
Yes.
comes from being, it comes from life experience. It comes from the women in your circle. Can you just talk briefly about your start? And you credit your start in the arts by your grandmother giving you a keyboard,
Yes.
and then everything blows up from there. Take us back just a little bit how you got
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Everything. So at the age of 13, I attempted to sell drugs. I attempted to be the man on the block and have all the cash and all that other stuff. But that failed me miserably because I got robbed the very first day that I tried to sell drugs. Got a,
Horrible drug dealer.
got a gun stuck to my head in a Kentucky Fried Chicken parking lot. Left my bike, ran, and I never looked back.
Oh
Um,
no.
so at that time, my grandmother was trying to get me into certain things. So she bought me a Yamaha keyboard in which I started to make little music and little beats. But that's also when I started to fall in love with hip hop with a group by the name of De La Soul.
Yes.
And they had a song called Me, Myself, and I. And me as a young boy growing up, around the way, I really resonated with that because it was almost like it was me, myself, and I. I
Mm.
felt isolated. Um, but I began to discover who I was through the elements of hip hop. How Karis One told me I'm still number one. How Special Ed told me that I had it made. How Tribe Called Quest, gave me the wherewithal to kick it in any round that I wanted to. And then, Rakim told me, ways that I could be paid in full without, having to be out on the street.
Mm.
So I took this and I started to create. I started with hip hop, I started making beats. I started rapping. I was an MC in a group called Pencils in a Cup. So music was always in my back pocket growing
Mhm.
up. But of
Yes.
course, life gets in the way of living. So my sister was diagnosed with HIV/AIDS at a time where nobody knew sort of about this. No one had the blueprint for this new disease. And my sister, she felt, isolated. And as a young boy, being able to, witness sort of the tragedy that she went through,
Mm.
sort of, suffering from this disease. Um, and then her leaving behind a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old that I sort of had to man up and
Yes.
take care of my nieces and sort of be the man of the house and things of that nature. But this was also at a time where mental health wasn't really the greatest orbiting factor in the household.
Mhm.
Black men were told to toughen up, don't cry, you're the man, be a man, all this stuff, and not necessarily deal with those mental health issues. It rendered me homeless. I was homeless on the streets of Pittsburgh for about a year and a half, sleeping on benches, sleeping under bridges, taking showers at the YMCA and different, organizations and things of that nature. Um, there was a time where I said, you know what, I got to change my life. And I went back to hip hop and really went back into the arts. And the arts is essentially what saved my life because I allowed it to come into my life and really build that relationship with the arts. And I found my way of artistic expression essentially being my therapy. At a time where, I didn't know how to call therapists and have therapy sessions. So art became my therapy.
Mhm.
And with art, once I got on my feet from art, after being homeless, I ended up opening a recording studio.
Mhm. In a 300 square foot room?
300 square foot room. I ended up being production director for 3 radio stations out of Pittsburgh. I ended up changing my life. And I promise God that if I get on my feet, I'll spend the rest of my life helping others get on their feet. So through opening a recording studio, putting together a nonprofit arts education program, winning my first Emmy in 2008,
Wow.
still having my employee that started with me in 2005, still to this day,
Wow.
to being able to uh, be appointed by 2 different governors to be the vice chair of the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts. So I represent all the arts in 67 counties in the state of Pennsylvania, and I represent over 175,000 artists. To be able to still do my work and put together a film called The Ebony Canal with Viola Davis underscores, everybody who's watching or listening to this, underscores what you could do if we just really lock in and focus and be
Absolutely.
great at what we're great at. So that's a little bit of story leading up to where I am today.
That's incredible, and your testimony is also so unique in the sense that there's no formula to this. Every single road is different, and every single road opens a door that you'll never know where it takes you down. You're a multidisciplinarian. You have several careers rolling into one. You, as a videographer and a music producer, you attribute a lot of your storytelling and the way that you curated these the hip hop music videos uh with the inspiration from Pete Rock and how he used to
Yeah,
sample different music and use visuals and pieces to story tell, right? To create a narrative and to create
yeah.
an arc. How has that, coming from that background, how has that fueled or inspired you as a filmmaker going into documentaries and going into this genre?
Yeah. So very much so, like I quote one of my good friends, his name's Diamond D.
Mhm.
Diamond D is one of the greatest hip hop producers of all time. And Diamond D, Jay Dilla, Premier, and Pete,
Jamila.
4 producers that when you think about digging in the crates, you think about doing the necessary research in order to grab the sounds
Mhm.
from different records in different genres of records, to be able to piece together something cohesive enough that might seem like organized confusion to someone else. But my attack on creating beats
Mhm.
or digging in the crates and bringing samples together, like Pete Rock does. Pete Rock had a song called Reminisce Over You. And his ability, along with Jamie Staub, who was an engineer at Green Street Studios in New York, their ability to put together these pieces from all different walks of life to gather one cohesive story was inspiration to me as a filmmaker. Is the frames became my samples, right?
Mhm.
Cameras became my Technique 1200s, right? Um, Different angles became my SP 1200 or my Akai MPC 2000 XL. And all my beat lovers, they know exactly what I'm talking about. But in this day and age, Final Cut is like my Fruity Loops.
Right.
Adobe Premiere is like my beat machine. So being able to gather these images in these frames to be able to tell stories that are so clinical, like the Ebony Canal. When we
Right.
talk about Black and brown infant health and Black maternal health, we have to deal with so many clinical
Right.
subjects,
Right.
right? That me as a director and me as a storyteller, I have to put it in a very, uh, you know,
You have to
uh,
synthesize all that information for
yeah,
us.
yeah, well, yeah. So there's the clinical, which oftentimes go over somebody's head. My responsibility is to put cultural with the clinical. I have to put the robust education with the romantic elements, right?
Wow.
Follow me.
Yes.
So that's how we as storytellers have to be poetic in telling these stories. And I'm just very grateful to be able to tell the story of the Ebony Canal through a very cinematic way.
I love that you decided to take this particular narrative that is so important. You talk a lot about mental wellness and the path to mental wellness and all of the different journeys we go through it, especially when we're trying to combat the medical industrial complex, right? And how we go about healing and how we go about healing ourselves. You say that the Ebony Canal is a love letter to Black women and Black mothers, and knowing that the Black infant mortality rate and how Black women specifically are treated in the medical industrial complex. How did you land on this particular narrative? How did you get here? And how is it being received, especially at a platform like the Sundance Festival?
Yes,
And how
yes.
is the public receiving this?
The public, first of all, let me just say this. How we got here, I shout out Sam Ryman of the Richard King Mellon Foundation that gave us the generous funding to put this film together. But we also had individuals like Sanjay Ryol. Sanjay is one of our executive producers.
Mhm.
He has 3 films on Netflix right now. He has Gather, Food Chains, and also 3100 Film Run. We also have individuals like Brenda Gilbert of Bronze Studios, who's one of our executive producers, and Leica Singh, who's one of our executive producers.
Mhm.
So when you have these individuals that support what's needed and the resources that are needed to tell this story, you truly have incredible champions. So that's how we sort of got here.
Yes.
How it's been received has been phenomenal, Melissa. And when I tell you, at our screening at Sundance, standing room only, sold out.
Woo!
Um, when you talk about the Pan African Film Festival in LA, sold out. We're headed to South by Southwest. We're
Let's
headed
go.
we're headed to the Johannesburg Film Festival for our international premiere
Let's
in
go.
in Africa, right? So when you talk about how this is received, and we just did a screening last week in Selma, Alabama. So
Incredible.
to be able to have this screening at different places underscores
Mhm.
how much this is very much needed.
Yes.
In this day and age, Black women are 3 times more likely to die during childbirth than their white counterparts. Black and brown babies are 2.5 times more likely to die before their first birthday than their white counterparts. So this is a story that's based on data. It's
Yes.
not based on assuming, because when we assume, 9 times out of 10, only the first 3 letters are going to apply when you assume, right? So
Right.
we're dealing with the crystallized and fossilized data of what it means to keep a child alive.
Mhm.
And the fact that America, one of the richest countries in the world, still has those mortality rates of that of a third world country underscores what we need to do. It underscores what I need to do as a director and as an artist.
Mhm.
And this is why we put together this love letter. If Black men are here to protect our Black and brown women, this is another way that we can protect our.
Wonder, and it starts with awareness and information. Just want to shout out really quickly to Brenda Gilbert of Bronze Studios, who's an incredible executive director. Folks don't know she was part of the reason why we have the film Judas and the Black Messiah, and part of the reason why we have um, you know a lot of names attached to the projects that we need to have amplified voices for. Right? We talk about Chairman Fred being a Chicago narrative, but also very much part of the civil rights movement and Gone Too Soon. So much of your narrative, Emmai, and your work is around the Black archive, and specifically around how Black and brown people lived their life through music, through that storytelling, you were inspired so much by these MCs who were sermoning, who were sending messages, who were transcending their life experience through their medium, whether it be through hip hop, whether it be through film, whether it be through poetry, what have you.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you are part of this process of the Black Archive with your film, with your music? Do you know how wonderful that process is for you? Just want to just shine light on you right now, about how this work is going to be part of our canon and how you're capturing histories with it, just because of who you are and what you've come through and the messages you've heard. How do
Yeah.
you feel about that, about this
So
capturing in time?
I feel very blessed. When I was in Selma, Alabama, I literally took the time to walk over the bridge.
Mhm.
And when I walked over the bridge, I almost felt this something over, take over me, that the ancestors were telling me that you are exactly where you need to be.
Gotcha.
As an artist and as a filmmaker, as I walked over that bridge in Selma, Alabama, I felt the ancestors. And I started to take some photography of the bridge, and things of that nature. But when I walked over the bridge, it was almost like my ancestors were saying, hey, listen, you're walking over this bridge that's connecting our stories, right? And we went from one side of the bridge to the other side of the bridge. And it was almost like Martin or John Lewis saying, you're exactly where you're supposed to be.
Gotcha.
And the fact that I was in Selma screening the Ebony Canal at the Day of Reckoning conference
Oh
that's
my
together
God.
by Michelle Broder. And Michelle Broder is just amazing. And I'm there with Lathan Thomas. I'm there with Michelle, Charles Johnson, and so many other individuals that are a part of this space. It was beautiful to feel and it was beautiful to see. And although as an artist, I concentrate on things that might be social justice driven, but if you take the S and the O out of social and you take the U and the S out of justice, so us, right? Why not us? So be us. So when we talk about crystallizing these stories for generations to see, I can't wait to tell my great grandchildren to find out that their great grandfather worked with the incomparable Viola Davis. And let me just make it clear, Viola saw a 3.5-minute teaser.
Right.
Every filmmaker that might be watching this, stop waiting to be perfect.
And complete.
Stop waiting to be finished.
Right.
Don't sit around waiting for stuff to be perfect, waiting for your sound guy to be perfect, waiting for your sound to be perfect, waiting for your color correction to be right.
They need a pitch.
Viola saw a 3-minute teaser and said, I need this director in LA ASAP.
Nice.
That's what I'm here to inspire you all
Yes.
to get on it and get done and to make this work, because right now it's go time more than ever before.
It's go time, Emmai. I'm so glad that you transitioned into this filmmaking process. We are part of the Cypher, and this is Cypher News. So I was going to ask you directly about that, about this phase of development. What is the next set of goals for Ebony Canal? And what are you looking forward to as we wrap up this wonderful time together?
So what we are waiting for, or what our next steps are, we're going on a film festival run this year, as well as an HBCU tour. Then we're going to go on an award tour, and we're currently looking for distribution. We're currently looking for more impact funding, because we can't do all this stuff for free.
Need the coin.
Unfortunately, right?
Need the coin.
So we need the coin in order to can continue to make the impact. I would encourage anybody who's watching, stop waiting for perfect. You're waiting for your drafts to be right. You're waiting for your to get money for your final draft and all that other stuff, just get started. And it's okay to not have an idea about your subject. I didn't have an idea about infant
Right.
mortality. I didn't know how powerful it was. So projects might start out transactional, but they'll end up transformative. I,
Boom.
I want you all to get to the transformation of your film and of your work.
The
That's what
purpose reveals itself, right?
very,
The
very
purpose the purpose will reveal itself, and a lot of art makers, they scramble, and I will speak for myself, right? Is like sometimes you don't know where to start, but sometimes you
yeah.
just have to start. You
You just
just have to start.
you just got to start. Listen, I just got up and just started shooting. That's what it is. Even as a filmmaker, I never took a class. I never went to school for any of this stuff. I bought a Canon 7D from the Best Buy in New York. I brought it back, opened it up, and I just started shooting. I never took a class for any of this. So that's where your passion has to meet your product. And as filmmakers, make sure your passion meets the product.
Wonderful. Well, Emmai, I'm not going to take any more of your time. I know you've got a lot on your plate, so thank you for taking the
Yeah,
time to share with us specifically. Thank you for pipelining your knowledge, your experience, and your information back to Chicago for us. And
absolutely.
thank
Shot
you.
Town in a building.
Look, Chi-Town is where we're at, and hopefully this is a partnership that can continue to grow as we open up new spaces, we make new partnerships, and we're creating new models for us, by us, right?
Yes.
To bring it back to FUBU, it was a good brand.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a good brand with a good message, and it really is that. How do we reclaim our spaces? There are warehouses, there is equipment, there's all of this abundance here. We have to reclaim it, we have to take it, and we have to grow laterally. We have to look to the left and to the right of us and say we are going up together, right? And that's how I've seen you move. And I think what's happening with Ebony Canal is just indicative of the future of your road as a filmmaker and how you bring people on. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for your time today, and best of luck for the next step of Ebony Canal. We will be rooting for you, and we'll be seeing it more once you get this distribution deal. Let's just put it out there for you.
We'll be seeing it more, and please tap into the Ebony Canal on Instagram. You can follow me on Instagram, Emmai_Alaquiva, and let's get at it.
Let's go. Let's go. This has been one segment with the Creative News. My name is Melissa Dupre of the Humble Park Dupre's. Be well and see you on the big screen.